Hello, California Tamil TV viewers. Welcome to the live session on how to prepare for a coding interview.
So Lit Mobile just sent me this wireless solar power.
Due to the general nature of the subject, we are going to have this session in English. Today we have with us Mr. Ajay Prakash, who works as a software engineer at LinkedIn. Ajay is in San Francisco Bay Area for over 5 years and worked in technology companies of all sizes, from early stage startup to one of the biggest names in the Silicon Valley. He is also my ex-colleague. Ajay's area of interest are algorithms, data structure, distributed systems, and artificial intelligence. He has given interviews to most of the major companies in the valley and had offers from almost all of them. He chose to work at LinkedIn right now. So he has also interviewed over 200 candidates, primarily focusing on algorithms, data structures, which gave him great insight into how and how not to approach algorithm problems. So, without further ado, I welcome Ajay to our California Tamil TV to talk on how to prepare for a coding interview. Ajay.
Yeah, thanks, Srini. So that was like a pretty big introduction. So I don't know if that is this thing. So yeah, thanks for that, and yeah, thanks for making this video, taking time interview regarding the interviews coding interview and all. So yeah, actually even I've been to the same situation of like finding the how to prepare for interview, finding jobs, and also I wanted to work for like really big companies, so like one of the top tier companies. So I went through like the preparation, and so after I got into a good company, so I thought like, okay, I'll also make some share that knowledge whatever I have learned so far. So that's why I made the YouTube video and also like some courses on the Udemy. And yeah, I think happy to do this you as well, like to share some knowledge, and hope it helps people in the especially at this time when there is like a lot of people are like looking for jobs, and job changes, especially these times are like pretty uncertain. So yeah, hope this reaches some people and helps them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ajay, for joining. Basically, as you said, right, I see kind of a trend right now. Like some companies are giving layoffs, and some of the companies actually recruiting, still recruiting. Most of the interviews through phone only, and then I see in my wife's company also last week, like 5 of them joined. So I think it's a nice time. It's not a bad time to prepare for the interview. So nice to have it,
Mhm.
and I hope our viewers will get benefited from it. So I'll start with my questions. So there are a lot of questions
Mhm.
lined up. So I just want to start
Sure,
with my first question.
sure.
Okay, the first question is basic to start with. What is a coding interview? How does a typical coding interview process looks like? Like how many rounds a candidate have to go through before they get an offer?
Yeah, so usually when I say coding interview, it is basically just interview for the developer position. So it can involve like coding and design and behavioral question. But in general, when we say coding interview, so it is for like these companies in Silicon Valley or like in any other tech companies. So usually the process, especially here in Bay Area, is basically it will start with a telephonic interview, so which usually contains a coding question, so 1 hour coding question, and the main point of this telephonic interview is to before bringing them to on-site for the on-site interview. So they will see if this candidate is like any good or not, instead of wasting the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So they will ask some basic like coding questions. So when I say coding questions, so it is like it may involve uh, writing code in a coder pad, so without help of any IDE, and they will share the screen and go over the you have to write a solution like a code to the given problem,
Okay.
and also ask some questions. And once you clear the that round, so then they will bring you on site. And so in the on site, usually so the whole team, or there will be like a lot of rounds. For example, 2 to 4 rounds of like algorithm and data structure interviews, which we call as coding interviews. So
Mm-hmm.
each one of them is around like at least 45 minutes to 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like in Google, LinkedIn, we have 3 rounds of coding interview,
Okay.
which involve like whiteboard coding
Mm-hmm.
and so where we will be asked for nothing but just algorithm or data structure problems.
Okay.
And there will be a design interview, like 1 or 2 rounds of design interview
Mm-hmm.
where you are asked about like how do you architecture a big system, like using big data technologies or like just whatever expertise or like whatever area you are in. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if you're a mobile developer, you'll be asked on like how to develop an application, what is the architecture of that, or if you are into like applications development, so they will ask like how the things work. And or big, if you're a data engineer, they will ask like all the data pipeline and those kind of stuff. So you need to like have a big picture and like discuss the pros and cons of different technologies.
Okay. Okay.
And then there will be like 1 or 2 rounds of behavioral interview where they will want to judge like your culture fit, or like how do you work as a within a team, like whether you are a team player, or how do you like deal with the conflicts in the team. So these kind of behavioral interviews.
Oh, nice. So you are saying like about 6 rounds of interview on an average from telephonic
Yeah.
offer?
So for yeah, so usually in like LinkedIn or like these companies, they have 8 rounds, which is
Mm-hmm.
like pretty extensive. But yeah, at least you can expect anywhere between like 4 to 8 rounds of interview.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Okay, thank you. So when we are talking about the coding interviews, especially it's very intense, we have to prepare a lot. Sometimes a lot of people get confused, like they don't know where to start. So generally, what do you suggest? You have interviewed a lot of people. So where to start for interview preparation and how to start?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, like as you said, it is very intensive, and also this is like a wide subject, as in like all the there is like so many different questions. But I think there are some like well-known like resources that most people use.
Mm-hmm.
So one is Leetcode.
Okay.
And so Leetcode is a website which has like problems from all the different companies.
Mm-hmm.
Leetcode actually is made by one of the engineer at Google. So he was at Google. He interviewed with Google and like left Google and started Leetcode.
Oh wow.
So because to help others to collect all the interview questions from other companies,
Mm-hmm.
and people go and submit their questions. So and also test cases for them, and you can actually go and like type the code and run it there and execute your code. So that is a really good tool to like prepare. And also usually on internet there is like a lot of websites, so
Yeah.
people usually get like sideline get scared as in like
Yeah.
where to start, and this is a huge thing. I
Yeah.
think the best strategy is to just start with lead code, and also there is one good book called as Elements of Programming Interview. So
Coming interview. Okay.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so Elements of Programming Interview. This book has been written by engineers from Facebook
Mm-hmm.
who used to take interviews at Facebook, and they actually like wrote this book about what all different things are there. So I think that is like one book that you, if you like do it from like cover to cover. So I think like you can crack most of the interviews in like the Bay Area.
Oh,
Because I mean it's also hard to like cover the end to end, but I feel like that is a pretty extensive list of things.
okay.
So that is a good question. I mean that's also a good resource. And also there is geeks4geeks.com, which is also very popular. But the thing with Geeks for Geeks is it is like a ocean of
Oh,
like information, so you don't know where to start. I think best place would be to like start with elements of programming interview, and also then go to Leetcode and practice the like lot of problems.
Okay.
And also I've made a YouTube video about like all the Leetcode, how to use Leetcode really well, so you can give that link as well. So
Okay,
yeah.
great, great. After the session, I will definitely post that link in the description and the comment section. So you mentioned two major points here. One is elements of programming interviews, and second is the lead code. Okay. So when you talk about lead code, even you said it is constantly getting updated, right? It is constantly getting updated, and it's. I assume it will also be huge. So how to make best use of that lead code?
Yeah, so basically in Leetcode, so if you go to Leetcode, there is like 1,400 interview questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you know like where to start. I think there are, but good thing is they are organized into like a different in a certain way. Like for example, difficulty level. So
Mm-hmm.
problems are either easy or medium or hard problems.
Okay.
So and also each of the problem like for every company, all the questions asked in a particular company are organized as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you are preparing for like Facebook interview
Mm-hmm.
or like a Google interview, so then you can like take some time and then prepare only for like these company specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Actually, Google in the lead code, there is like 800 questions alone for Google itself, which is like huge. But that's the thing about Google, right? Like their coding interview is like so hard that you have to like constantly like keep learning and practice. And yeah, as I said, there is also easy, medium, and hard problems.
Mm-hmm.
So easy and medium. So when you start with lead code, you find it like really hard where to start and all. But I think like good place to start is easy problems.
Okay.
So easy problems, you need to like start doing easy problems and like get better at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to the medium problem.
Okay.
Medium problem are also like little bit hard, but you need to like as with more and more practice, you'll start getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can sort these. There is also like different lists of questions. For example, like top 100 light questions,
Mm-hmm.
top most frequent questions. I think that is also a good place to start if you don't know like where to start. So you can start with most frequently asked questions.
Oh, that is very useful one. Okay. So
Right.
moving on, I see a lot of questions coming out from the viewers. So
Okay.
just go with the question I have right now. So
Mhm.
if I start preparing now, like how many days or months of preparation is needed if I have to target like FANG companies, and how do I manage to prepare for an interview when I already have like a full time job?
Uh, yeah, actually, that's a good question. I think everybody must have been in the same boat, like at some point, especially people who are changing jobs.
Mm.
But actually, you said like FANG companies, so it is Facebook, Apple, Amazon,
Yeah,
Netflix, and Google.
yeah.
So yeah, these are like also like really good stocks, but also really hard interviews to crack.
Okay.
So yeah, actually even so I have like a lot of friends who are working in these companies as well. So basically like when they like call like the recruiters call and like ask you when you want to take an interview out of the blue. So I think best strategy would be to like keep it like at least give it 2 to 3 months to prepare, especially if you're like already working in a company,
Mm-hmm.
because I think the to make the best use of the opportunity. So every day, like I would say, 3 months is like a good time if you are working, and you can spend like 1 or 2 hours per day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Strategy would be to like, for example, like in 1 hour you can like solve like one question, right? So you can start off with maybe like two easy questions, and like you can in 1 hour you can solve two easy questions. So you start with that,
Mm-hmm.
and every day like you do 1 or 2 hours, so
Okay.
until you get better, and then go to the medium questions. And finally, I think like if you focus on like easy and medium questions, so in on lead code,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you want to like go through the elements of programming interview, I would say like it will take like a good 2 to 3 months to
Okay.
like attend these interviews. And also, yeah, I mean, timeline is like that. But good thing for there is like a lot of people, like students who are graduating now, so
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of time in their hand. I feel like, especially if you have like if you are preparing for the interviews full time,
Mm-hmm.
I would say like it's a really good good. Uh, Opportunity to like crack these interviews if you like work really hard like every day like for 6 hours or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe within one like month you can like be ready to like give these interviews.
Got you, got you. Very good. Very good insight into the hard, easy, and medium problems. So, one thing is preparation. You said like 3 to 4 months of preparation should be good enough to start attending the interview. But one thing I see common in a lot of people is that interview fear. Okay, when though they have a lot of preparation, once they get into that interview call or they went on site, they get that interview fear creeped up in them, and they try to lose the confidence, and they don't even, I mean, solve some of the easy problem which they already know. So, how to build confidence and how to get over this fear?
Yeah, actually, this is a very common thing. Like even I used to face like a lot of this things. I think it's mainly whenever you like how much ever you practice and do like really good preparation. So when you go to the interview, you feel really nervous, and so that's like really common. I don't think like you can actually like ever come get over that fear, but I think what has worked for me is so whenever before going to these big companies, so I used to make sure I go for like small like startups and interview there,
Okay.
like give companies interview which are like not so big. So one thing is once you go to these interviews, so initial first few interviews with like these companies, even the startups, so you will like make a lot of mistakes
Mm-hmm.
because you be either nervous, and like even if you know the answer you won't be able to present it properly.
Got.
So but you will like learn from these mistakes, and the key is like if you attend more interviews, so you build up that confidence as to like you know your mistakes and you have worked on it, and then you go to these big companies, so then it becomes a little bit better. I mean, you can't completely get over the fear, but it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think it is a mindset as well.
Mm-hmm.
So mindset as in you need to like feel think that okay, you are actually belong to this one of these companies, right? So most of the time we feel that like we are not good enough for these companies, and
Yeah.
yeah, so if you go with that attitude, you will feel that like you are not good, and so you even if you know the answer, you can't like
Yeah.
tell it. I think you should prepare yourself to like mentally prepare yourself to say that like okay, I can do this, and I belong to one of these companies, and I mean, so I
Okay.
think preparation and yeah.
Yeah. So you are saying like before going to the big league, play the small league, like you
Yeah.
small companies as the playground.
No, I mean, not like just to waste their time, but also like they, I mean, even they also like reject candidates.
Yeah.
Like even startups are very, not like startups are very easy to crack. They are also like pretty hard, but they are like low risk, as in like
Yeah.
even if they reject you, you don't feel that bad, or you don't miss any opportunity. There are like a lot of startups in Bay Area, right? So.
Great. Great point. Great point. Great point. Okay. So before I move on to my question, there are a lot of questions from the viewers coming up. I want to take one viewer's question, not to,
Yeah.
but I think it's a very interesting question. So, a viewer named Ramesh Ratnappa is asking, will there be a different interview process for H1B holders and the non-H1B holders? Since you have interviewed like a lot of people, I just want to uh, answer you. I mean, you can answer this question if you choose to.
No, actually, from my experience, so the recruiters or they don't even know what H1B is and all these things like until the later stage.
Okay.
people who like at least in the big companies there is no like difference at all. I think the matter of immigration comes only when you have the offer. For example, like if you LinkedIn makes you an offer and then they will ask you like before making an offer they will ask you like whether you need immigration help and all. So there are like separate this thing.
Okay.
But I never come across any like process where they ask me like
Difference.
there is different process. Yeah, there's,
Okay, okay. Great, great, great. Okay, so I move on to my next question. Like, can you give some tips on how to approach the coding problem in the interview?
mm. Yeah, actually, I can show some slides here. I made like a small example.
Okay.
So, yeah, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example problem. So when so when in this is like one of the problem asked in Google,
Uh-huh.
right? So this is from Leetcode. So basically, like it is asking, you are given an array, and you need to find if there are two numbers, like
Mm-hmm.
if there are one number appearing in the like array two times with distance between the indices given, like there will be a number given like k is equal to 3 or something.
Uh-huh.
So you need to check if there are any number which appears such that their difference between their indexes is like less than or equal to 3.
Okay.
So example, in the first example, so there is 1 2 3 1. So 1 appears two times and k is equal to 3, which
Yeah.
means that between 0 and 3 it appears two times, right? So that you had to return true. And in the second in like example also it is so like 1 appears two times and k is equal to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it appears like from, so if you see 0 1 2 and at index 2 and 3 it appears with within a difference of 1.
Correct, correct.
So if you are asked this problem, right? So first thing you have to do is usually like candidates try to recall if I have seen this problem or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wrong this thing. So I think the minute I ask this question as an interviewer,
Mm-hmm.
so the candidate should basically just try to brainstorm like his ideas about this problem. So, for example, first thing is you need to reiterate what the problem is. So, just by asking the question, like rephrasing the question.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you are asked this question, you need to like, okay, so this is what I'm like. For example, I need to find
Mm-hmm.
if one number appears more than once within a distance of k is equal to 3.
Okay.
And so you should ask like questions like what is can the k be like some outside more than the size of the array, right? And also like all these clarifying questions. For example, can the array be null? So
Okay.
these kind of questions you need to ask.
Okay.
And then you need to like start with the like the approach. So there are like there may be multiple ways of doing it. Usually candidates try to come up with like the best solution right away,
Mm-hmm.
like optimal solution. But that's not what we usually as interviewers expect.
Mm-hmm.
So you like tell what is the brute force approach. So then I know that like, okay, this person is thinking through the problem,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
From the brute force approach will be to like go over each array.
Mm-hmm.
So go over, for example, this is the input. So the brute force approach will be to like start with like the one element and check every other element in the array.
Okay.
And see if there is one appears and check if the condition exists. If so, return true or go to the next one. So for example, one will be compared with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you one, so you can check if one is equal to one, but the index difference between the index is 3, which is more than 2, like k is equal to 2 here.
Yeah.
So it falls. So you go to the next one and you find the answer. So this is like a brute force solution. So basically you need to draw this on the board. So usually all the coding interviews are
Okay.
on the board. So one thing that really helps is instead of like thinking through in your own mind, so it really helps when you like take the this thing and start with an like sample input and working through this, and so that like it builds while you're conversing with the interviewer.
Mhm.
So if it is like instead of just standing there and like keep thinking, so if you work it out on the whiteboard with like so you can like feel free to like draw anything like arrows and stuff. So it shows the interviewer that you're actually like thinking through the problem.
Got.
So once you give the brute force solution, so you need to like rethink. Okay, so this is a brute force solution, and so here the time complexity is O of n square. So time and one of the key aspect of coding interview is analysis of the algorithm. So they want you to like analyze the algorithm and like see what is the time complexity, space complexity of this.
Okay.
So I have like a few resources I can give you to like prepare for that. But yeah, you say that like O of n square.
Okay.
And so after this point, right? So usually candidates, what I've seen is they start to write the code right away.
Hmm.
So they to code. So that's not the like right approach. So usually I don't like the candidates who try to like start writing the code right away, because anybody can write the code, but the problem is you have to think what we are interested in is like how are you thinking through the process. So I don't like really care much about how you write the code, but how you are thinking through the problem. So
Okay.
then once you land on a brute force approach, so then you need to like think through further, like how can I improve this approach. For example, in this problem, so instead of like this brute force approach, so instead of starting coding with this solution, you can think through like, okay, can I make it better? For example, in previous one, so we used to check each number with the other numbers. So instead, we can just like save indexes. For example, like 2 is at 1 and 3 is at 2 and
Okay.
1 3. So you can do one pass and then check each of them, and like here 2, so 4 and 6 is there are indexes, so you can actually like say that it is at 2. So then you have a like a linear solution, right? So so once you land on this solution, like a better solution, then you start write the code,
Great.
right?
Great.
Just a second, trying to
Okay. Are you trying to show something else?
no, actually, I'm just trying to exit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
once you learn this code, I can show the code here. Can you see the this thing?
Yeah, I can see the screen. So this is the code you are showing right now. Is it optimized one or is it a brute force solution?
Yeah. So this is a optimized solution. So the my point is until you like you and interviewer
Hmm.
come to an agreement that this is a good solution or a better solution, so don't write the code, right? You will save a lot of time by like writing the code and erasing the code.
Okay.
By so I always tell the candidates, come to a like conclusion about like what approach are you going to use, and you have to think it through your mind.
Okay.
So you like start writing the code, and this code has to be like really like syntactically correct and everything. So that's why I say like think it through in your head and like come up with the approach and then write the code. And most of the time we ask the candidate to like write proper code, so not like a pseudo code or
Okay.
just like scribble something. So you have to write, because I think all these companies are like engineering heavy companies, and so we want you to like code without any help of IDE also.
Okay.
So this is how you like also prepare for the this thing.
Great. Great. Okay. So that was a very very in-depth answer. So what I
Mm.
got from you said is like so first thing is put the problem on the whiteboard and try to come up with a linear solution or a brute force solution so that interviewer will understand your how you are thinking through. So and second, there was even I had this perception that whenever we solve the problem, we have to solve with optimized solution, but you broke that idea. So go with the brute force solution and then write the code after you agree with the interviewer. Okay,
Mm.
that was a great insight. Actually, it busted one of the myth I had too. Actually, okay.
Yeah, and
So
one point is don't think about optimal solution is one thing, and also don't so in the interview it has to be like continuous conversation.
mhm.
So we really don't like when candidates go silent, like they will try to think in their head like what is how to come up with this solution.
Uh-huh.
I would see them like just write it on the board and try to explain what's going on there in their head so that we can also give some inputs as to where they're going.
Okay,
So it
great.
helps a lot.
Great insight, actually. It's like insight and information too. Okay, so we talked about the coding problems. Very elaborate. You gave very in depth, and then you showed one of the problems as well. So I want to talk about design interviews. There are how do I prepare for the design interviews?
Mhm. Yeah, so usually design interviews is based on your domain of expertise. So if you are a mobile developer, then you are expected you'll be asked like a design specific to like mobile apps, and also some companies expect you to be like a general engineer, but and also there is like one suggestion I want to give is like there is no shortcut to this design interview. I think more you read about the designs, so like more you understand the design, the
Mhm.
better engine like you will be able to like better tackle this interview.
Okay.
So where to read this design knowledge is basically every company has put out a lot of their design in journals or like blogs. So for example, LinkedIn has LinkedIn engineering blog, Google has Google engineering blog, Facebook, everyone has their engineering blogs.
Okay.
And if you read through those engineering blogs, so you will like learn a lot of really informational things like how do you design a big system,
Mm-hmm.
how do you like how do you tackle challenges like that no other companies have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So I best way to think is just go through this, like read as much as possible from these companies,
Mm-hmm.
and is the best approach. And also there is grokking the design interview. I think there is, I'll send the link later, but that is also a good start. But yeah, for example, I read through like the LinkedIn engineering blog, like completely like 300 articles or something.
Okay.
So yeah, that's like really eye opener for me. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So, one thing I want to ask is I saw one of your videos about thing we are talking about preparing for the interview. You talked about problem solving mode versus memorizing,
Mm.
recalling the solution. Can you like a little bit elaborate more on that? How do interviewer know that I am recollecting and doing or problem solving? Uh, so, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So usually candidates what they do is whenever they are asked the question, so they try to recall if I have seen this question already or not, and we are already under an impression that okay, if I've seen this question, I'll clear the interview, or if I have not seen this question, I can't clear this interview, right? So they won't even most of the time they just like get afraid and not even try solving that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think why I said like there is problem solving mode, but the thing is that if you have solved enough problems related to very different topics, for example, if you know hash map, priority queue, and all these things, you don't need to recall memorize these problems. So basically what happens is you will think in such a way that whenever there is a problem, so you will automatically go into problem solving mode where whatever techniques you know, you start applying that and solving the problem.
Okay.
So the way interviewer know it, it becomes very clear to the interviewer that like whether you are trying to memorize the solution or this thing, because usually when you are memorizing the solution, so you try to say that like okay, this question is like some other question, or
Okay.
I've seen this kind of problem, so I'll use that technique, and like you directly jump into the solution.
Okay.
So in said, I would want you to like explain what your thought process is about the problem instead of if you explain me, okay, brute force this is how you do it in brute force approach, and it is not a good solution. So go for a better solution using different technique. So it is very easy to tell like whether the candidate is like trying to memorize or he's actually knows something about the problem and knows about the techniques.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. 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 I have like a couple more questions. There are some
Mhm.
coming in as well, but I want to talk about more about the easy, medium, and hard problem you mentioned earlier. Um, like based on the question, how like easy, medium, or hard, how much time does the interviewer expect the interviewer to solve this in? Like how much time a candidate is expected to solve these problems?
Yeah, so usually coding interviews are like 1 hour interviews. So hard question. So when I said hard question, so usually very previously like a lot of companies used to ask a lot of hard questions, but like we realized that like if we ask hard questions, so we won't know whether because these hard questions sometimes like people took like did PhDs to like solve this problem. So if you have not seen this problem in the interview, sorry, if we have not seen this problem, then you can't solve it in the interview, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I think like you should spend more time in like easy and medium problems. Try as much as like get to better at it,
Okay.
and then see the hard questions. Where hard questions is usually makes up to like 15 to 20% of the problems in the interview. Like for example, Facebook. I've seen the data. I can share that later. I also made another video about that, where I like did the analysis of all this data and saw that like for only 20% make up for the hard
Do
problems.
you have
So
that data to show with us for our viewers? If you have,
uh,
it's okay. Otherwise, it's not an issue.
yeah, so I'm here.
Oh, wow, great, great statistics. Yeah.
So basically, the graph is showing. So like I ordered getting the echo. So what this is showing like which companies ask the most amount of hard questions, right? So for example, like this company startups like Pinterest, Snapchat, Airbnb, they ask like the most hard questions. So if you see, this is like a percentage breakdown. So there is around like 40% of the problems asked in Pinterest is like hard problems. But if you see like Google, Facebook, they ask like 20% and 17%, and rest of all the companies ask around like 15% of their problems are hard problems. So this is the data from Leetcode. I scraped through all the problems and like did a data analysis and sorted them. So yeah, I think only these Snapchat, Airbnb. I worked in Airbnb for like a brief time, so I we had like a lot of hard questions. So I definitely can attest. Yeah. So, but like for example, LinkedIn has only like 15%. So yeah, I mean, from what I've heard is people like I mean, hiring committee asks not to like ask hard questions because it becomes very difficult to like judge the candidate based on that.
Correct.
So I think most of your time you should like spend on easy and medium problems.
I think that is very, very important statistics and analysis you did. This, I think, is going to help for the people who are working and preparing for the interview. Very
Mhm.
cool. I want to take a couple of viewers' questions. There are a lot of questions coming up. One question from Kadiresan. Could you please suggest which programming language will be the better for coding interviews?
Yeah. So one of the good thing about coding interviews is so you can choose whichever language you want. Like for example, even if you're an iOS developer who does coding in Objective C, you can still like choose Java as the programming language for your this thing. So I think the answer short version of this thing is usually Java and Python are the most used. Java, C++, and Python are the most common languages people usually prefer. And also it makes it easier for interviewer to like if you write in Java, anyone can understand. Most
Okay.
of the engineers can understand because it is like more verbose and stuff. So
Okay.
I would say Java, like definitely like sharpen your Java skills.
Okay. 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 So one more viewer question. Okay. So this question is from Prabhu. So he's asking, always battling with questions whether the interviewer are okay with the detailed resume or short resume. So basically, he's asking, is it okay to give a detailed resume or short resume?
Yeah, I would say it's short resume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, short resume. Okay. Let me see if there is some more question. There are a lot of questions, but most of them you basically answered. That's why I'm not picking up them. So, how do you differentiate between like a good candidate, bad candidate versus the unlucky candidate? There are sometimes candidates who get stuck with like a hard question. He
Uh,
unlucky. How do you differentiate as an interviewer?
Yeah, so that's why I personally don't ask hard questions, like really hard questions. So
Hmm.
I have like a few questions in like the interviews. So usually, what I do is I ask like medium level questions which are not very common,
Hmm.
and usually like like which are which are not too like extravagant or anything. So it can be solved using hash map, priority queue, these kind of common known techniques.
Hmm.
And candidate, I can like definitely say people who just like don't answer anything or just like stay quiet for like long time,
Hmm.
right? So don't like tell anything. Even if I try to like ask them, okay, can you do this? So they don't like tell anything because they're like completely blank. I think those are like the worst. I mean, like worst kind of like candidates.
Okay.
But we like they are afraid or something. But yeah, the other candidates are they jump into coding right away. So
Hmm.
as it, I think that is an instinct for a programmer to like okay, you need to like code and then think through the problem. So and then they start coding and they think that like they can think through the code, but they get like stuck and like mess up the code and like try to get up. So I think like good candidate is one who like talks like technically and like comes up with a solution and then like asks whether okay, so they are you okay with the approach?
Hmm.
And one who has like if you have clarity in your mind as to how to approach the problem,
Hmm.
then usually like the interviewer will like get to know about that. So
Okay.
once you're like made sure that interviewer understood your solution,
Hmm.
then you should start coding. So I think those are like the good candidates because coding is like only like a few, small part of it. I think most of the thing is like thinking through that problem and telling what is the time complexity
Okay.
and all these things, right?
Okay. Nice. 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 Okay. Thanks for that answer. I have another question from Mani Meghala. She is asking, will there be a no hire given to a person if he fails in the first coding interview? What is the cool off period usually?
Yeah, usually like it is 6 to 1 year. I think like if I understand the question, like if you fail in the on-site interview, if you get a reject, then like cool off period. I
Mm.
think most of the like these companies have at least 6 months, and I think in Google and like LinkedIn and Amazon, it's like 1 year.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, there is like off period.
So 6 months to 1 year by generally. Okay, nice, nice. Okay, I think I we ran out. We planned for like 30 minutes. It's more than 40 minutes. My one last question for you: how to increase my morale or a confidence level before going to the interview? How do I strategize on improving my confidence level? That's my final question for you.
Yeah. So as I said, first thing is like you should think that okay, you can like you should go with an attitude that you belong to this like this company, and you should not feel that like I'm not good enough or like I'm not I may like not belong here. I think that's the most like common like source of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And other thing is I think if you go through like more and more interviews, as I said, in like because in Bay Area, like once you start like there are like a lot of companies
Mm-hmm.
now, so you can like start interviewing with these startups, and I think But yeah, I mean, right now the situation may be different. I won't talk about that right now. I mean, but in general, like when things are fine, so a lot of companies will be hiring, and like so
Okay.
you do a lot of interviews. So that's how we build the confidence.
Okay, great, great, great. Thank you for answering a lot of questions. Actually, I see a lot of questions in the chat, but most of them you already answered. Some of them are like they're going into more in detail, so I will send them in the email. Probably you can answer them later. So thanks
No,
for joining. If you have any closing words, please let us know before we wrap up this session.
Um, yeah, actually, just keep practicing. I think you don't have to be afraid of like a lot of information on the internet. I think if you stick to lead code and like start solving those problems, I
Mhm.
think that would be like a best strategy, and also elements of programming interview. So people think that like you need to like learn from a lot of different sources, but yeah, I would say like if you stick to one or two sources, then you can like clear most of the interviews.
Great. That was a great session. Very insightful. Very. I think hope it will help a lot of people. A lot of people will get benefited from this session. I just want to close out this session calling. Ajay is my very good friend. He lives here in Silicon Valley. He's also done Udemy course which is called Master the Art of Dynamic Programming. So people who want to, it's one of the best seller in Udemy too. So people who want some discount code for that course, you can email us to tamiltv.bayarea@gmail.com, or you can send a message to our WhatsApp number. It is there in our website itself. So thank you, Ajay, for joining. I will forward those questions. There are a lot of questions. I will forward those questions to you if you can answer them. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Srini. It was nice talking to you, and like it was. Hope this helps people. So,
Thank you.
thanks, Srini.